Some machines break records, others break the rules, but only one machine broke every conception of what a farm tractor could be. Standing 14 feet tall, stretching 27 feet long, and weighing as much as a loaded semi-truck, the Big Bud 16V-747 wasn't just built big, it was built impossible. Today, we're going inside the world's largest farm tractor ever built, a 16-cylinder monster born in Montana that redefined agricultural power, challenged physics, and proved that when American farmers need something done, they build it themselves. This is the story of the machine that made giants look small. Chapter 1. The Montana Connection. Before the Big Bud 16V-747 became a legend, there was a dealership, a dream, and a desperate need for power on the northern plains. The story begins in Havre, Montana, pronounced Haver by locals, a small town on the High Line where the wheat fields stretch to the horizon and the wind never stops. This was Wagner tractor country. Back in the 1950s and 60s, if you farmed the big country of Montana or the Canadian wheat belt, you probably knew about Wagner tractors. They were the original pioneers of articulated four-wheel drive design, featuring a revolutionary concept: straight axles front and rear, pivoting at the center. That articulation gave maneuverability no conventional tractor could match while maintaining four-wheel traction. Wagner had created something special, and Willie Hensler's dealership in Havre was riding high on their success. But then, disaster struck. Wagner made a deal with John Deere to build rebadged tractors, and when that arrangement eventually fell apart, Wagner's independent tractor production shut down. Suddenly, Hensler's thriving dealership had nothing to sell. For most businessmen, that would have meant closing the doors and moving on. But Hensler wasn't most businessmen, and his service manager, a man nicknamed Big Bud Nelson, had an idea. The dealership had been repowering Wagner tractors for years, swapping in bigger engines and beefier components for customers who needed more muscle. They'd essentially been building super Wagners in their service bay. Nelson and Hensler figured if they could rebuild Wagners, why not build their own tractors from scratch? In 1969, Willie Hensler and Bud Nelson formed Northern Manufacturing Company with a singular mission: build the ultimate articulated tractor. They'd use the basic Wagner design philosophy, but overbuild everything, use off-the-shelf components from the heavy equipment industry, and create machines specifically for the demanding conditions of Northern Plains agriculture. The first true Big Bud rolled out that same year, designated the HN250, the H for Hensler, the N for Nelson, and 250 for the rated engine horsepower. It used a lot of Wagner parts, particularly the cab and basic frame design, but the powertrain was all new. A Cummins NT855 six-cylinder diesel provided the grunt, paired with a fuller 12-speed transmission pulled from the heavy truck world. This wasn't a refinement. This was a reimagining. One of Northern Manufacturing's cleverest innovations was the flip-top cab. By mounting the entire operator's station on massive hinges, a farmer could tilt the cab back and access the engine and transmission for maintenance, without crawling under the machine or pulling body panels. Later models would put that cab on hydraulics, making it even easier. For a machine weighing tens of thousands of pounds, anything that simplified maintenance was gold. Word spread fast. Montana farmers loved these tractors. They were cartoonishly overbuilt, easy to work on, used readily available parts, and delivered serious power. Northern Manufacturing settled into producing about a dozen tractors a year, building each one to customer specifications. By the mid-1970s, Hensler and Nelson were ready to slow down. They'd built something successful, but they were getting older. Enter Ron Harmon, a successful local businessman who purchased Northern Manufacturing at the beginning of 1975. Harmon had big ideas and bigger ambitions. He immediately began restructuring, establishing a real sales and marketing group, and expanding beyond Montana's borders. Almost immediately, Harmon introduced the KT line, featuring the massive 450 horsepower Cummins KTA 1150 engine. In 1976, he built a new 30,000 square foot manufacturing facility, using the old Wagner dealership as sales and service only. The Series 2 models launched in mid-1977 with larger cabs and continuous improvements. Big Bud was no longer just a Montana secret. Farmers across North America and even internationally were taking notice. But Harmon's real moment of destiny came with a phone call from California. The Rossi brothers, Elmer and Melvin, ran massive cotton operations near Bakersfield. They had a problem. Their fields required deep ripping to break up compacted soil layers, work that was punishing their equipment. They'd been using a pair of Caterpillar D9 crawler tractors, but even those beasts were struggling. The Rossi brothers wanted something different. something bigger, something that had never been built before. They wanted Northern Manufacturing to build them the most powerful farm tractor on Earth. Ron Harmon said yes. The result would be designated the 16V-747, named after Boeing's 747 jumbo jet, the largest passenger aircraft of the era. The tractor would be designed by Wilbur Hensler and built by Harmon's crew over the winter of 1977 and 78. The price tag, $300,000 in 1970s money. That's over $1.5 million in today's dollars. For that money, the Rossi brothers would get something that had never existed before, a tractor that would make every other farm machine on Earth look small. Chapter 2. The Heart of the Beast. The fundamental question facing Northern Manufacturing was simple but daunting. How do you power a tractor that will weigh 100,000 pounds and need to pull implements no other farm machine can handle? The answer came from Detroit Diesel in the form of the 16V-92T, a 16-cylinder, two-stroke diesel engine that was essentially two 8V-92T engines coupled together on a common crankshaft. This wasn't a farm engine. This was industrial power, the kind of muscle found in massive mining equipment and heavy construction machinery. The engine displaced 1,472 cubic inches. That's 24.1 liters of swept volume. Each of the 16 cylinders displaced 92 cubic inches, hence the 92 designation in the model name. For perspective, that's nearly 3 times the displacement of a Bugatti Veyron's 16-cylinder engine. And this Detroit Diesel was built for constant heavy load operation that would melt an automotive engine in minutes. The two-stroke design meant the engine produced power on every revolution rather than every other revolution like a 4-stroke motor. Intake air was forced in by a Roots-type supercharger, then compressed by the piston rising in the cylinder. Fuel injection at the top of the stroke ignited the air-fuel mixture, driving the piston down and producing power. As the piston descended, exhaust ports in the cylinder wall opened, allowing combustion gases to escape while the supercharger simultaneously pushed in fresh air to scavenge the cylinder. This design made the engine lighter and less mechanically complex than an equivalent 4-stroke, with an inherently higher power-to-weight ratio. Each of the two V8 sections of the engine had its own turbocharger, feeding the common Roots supercharger. This twin-turbo setup provided massive amounts of air under pressure, essential for the combustion process at high load. The engine's mechanical unit injection system was proven, reliable, and crucially simple enough that field repairs were possible if something went wrong. When the 16V-74 rolled out of the Northern Manufacturing plant in January 1978, that Detroit Diesel was rated at 760 horsepower. But here's the beautiful part about that engine. It had room to grow. Over the years, the horsepower would climb. The second owner, Willowbrook Farms in Florida, turned up the fuel delivery and got 900 horsepower. Later, when the Williams brothers brought the tractor back to Montana in 1997, they eventually pushed it to 960 horsepower. By 2011, with new high-flow fuel injectors, the 16V-92T was producing 1,100 horsepower. That's more power than many modern production semi-trucks, all concentrated in a single farm tractor. But raw horsepower means nothing if you can't transfer it to the ground efficiently. The transmission was a twin-disc unit using 6 forward gears and 1 reverse, pulled straight from heavy-duty mining equipment. An 18-inch diameter torque converter provided smooth power transfer and protected the drivetrain from shock loads when the implement hit obstacles. The entire powertrain was designed around one principle: use proven, off-the-shelf components from industries that demanded extreme durability. No experimental parts, no custom fabrications that would be impossible to replace. If something broke, you could source a replacement from the mining or heavy construction industries. The axles came from Clark Equipment Company, massive 85,000-pound units used on Michigan L480 wheel loaders. These weren't farm equipment axles. These were designed to carry loaded mining equipment on the worst terrain imaginable. Overkill for agriculture? Maybe. But overkill was exactly what the Big Bud 16V-747 was all about. The hydraulic system held 150 gallons of hydraulic oil to power the steering and implement controls. That's not a typo. 150 gallons. For context, a typical modern farm tractor might have 20 to 40 gallons of hydraulic capacity. The Big Bud needed that volume to handle the massive forces involved in steering a machine this size and operating implements that could be 80 feet wide. The fuel tank held 1,000 gallons of diesel. 1,000 gallons. That's enough fuel to fill up more than 20 average pickup trucks. But when you're burning 3/4 of a gallon per acre and working hundreds of acres per day, that capacity was necessary. A full tank added roughly 7,000 pounds to the tractor's weight, bringing it to just over 100,000 pounds before any ballast. Speaking of ballast, The 16V-747 could be weighted to 135,000 pounds for maximum traction. That's 67.5 tons. That's the weight of a loaded semi-truck and trailer, all concentrated in a single articulated tractor. The steering system used hydraulic cylinders, acting on the center pivot point, unlike a conventional tractor that steers with the front wheels. The Big Bud articulated in the middle, with both front and rear axles remaining straight. This design provided incredible maneuverability for such a large machine while maintaining four-wheel traction. Every mechanical system on the 16V-747 was sized for a machine that would work under constant heavy load for hours and days at a time. This wasn't about peak performance. This was about sustained, brutal, relentless work in conditions that would destroy lesser machines. The engineering philosophy was simple: overbuild everything, use the toughest components available, and never compromise on durability. Chapter 3. The Dimensions of Dominance. Numbers only tell part of the story, but the numbers on the Big Bud 16V-747 are staggering. The tractor measured 27 feet long from front to back. That's longer than many full-size pickup trucks. The height to the top of the cab reached 14 feet. That's tall enough that the operator sat higher than many two-story buildings' first-floor windows. You didn't climb into this machine, you ascended. The original width with dual tires on each corner was just under 21 feet. Later, when replacement tires necessitated a change to different rims and rubber, the width expanded to over 25 feet. That's wider than a typical two-lane country road. Operating this machine on public roads required careful planning, advance warning, and often escort vehicles. The fenders alone spanned 13 feet 4 inches. The wheelbase, measured from the center of the front axle to the center of the rear axle, stretched 14 feet. The articulation point, where the front and rear frames hinged, was positioned to provide balanced weight distribution while allowing up to 45 degrees of articulation in either direction. This meant the Big Bud could make surprisingly tight turns for its size, critical when working field edges or navigating around obstacles. The tires were custom-built by United Tire Company of Canada, measuring 8 feet in diameter and 40 inches wide. Think about that, an 8-foot-tall tire. The lugs on those tires measured nearly 8 inches tall when new, providing incredible traction in soft or loose soil. Each tire and wheel assembly weighed thousands of pounds. When United Tire Company went bankrupt in 2000, replacing those tires became a serious problem. By 2020, the original rubber had served for over 40 years. The lugs worn down to less than 2 inches from their original 8. The Williams brothers, who owned the tractor at the time, worked with Goodyear to source replacement tires, LSW 1400/30, R46 models that were slightly under 7 feet tall, a full foot shorter than the originals. New rims were fabricated to accommodate the different tire specifications, and while the machine sat slightly lower, it gained an additional 4 feet of width due to the rim and tire combination design. The cab was designed for comfort during the long hours this machine would operate. Air conditioning and heating kept the operator comfortable in California's scorching summers or Montana's brutal winters. Windshield wipers handled dust and rain. A swivel bucket seat allowed the operator to look forward or turn to watch implements behind. A buddy seat meant a second person could ride along, useful during training or when multiple people needed to be on site. An AM/FM radio and 8-track stereo system, cutting-edge entertainment for 1977, made the hours more bearable. The paint scheme was originally white, with a black hood top and black exhaust stacks, giving the machine a striking appearance in photographs. Later, the Williams brothers would repaint it all white with chrome mufflers and new graphics, making the already impressive machine even more visually stunning. The sheer physical presence of the Big Bud 16V-747 cannot be overstated. This wasn't just a large tractor, this was a machine that fundamentally changed your perception of what agricultural equipment could be. Standing next to it, you felt small. Walking around it, you understood you were in the presence of something that existed at the absolute outer limits of what humans had built for farming. It commanded respect, not through aggressive styling, but through simple, overwhelming scale. This was power made manifest in steel, rubber, and diesel fuel. Chapter 4. Built for Battle: The Cotton Fields of California. In February 1978, the Big Bud 16V-747 made its public debut at the California Farm Equipment Show in Tulare. The reaction was predictable. Crowds gathered, jaws dropped, and cameras clicked furiously. This wasn't just another new tractor. This was a spectacle. a statement, a machine that made everything else at the show look like toys. But the Rossi brothers didn't build this beast for show. They built it for work, and that work began immediately on their 20,000-acre cotton operation near Bakersfield. The primary task was deep ripping, also called subsoiling. Cotton has deep roots, and California's Central Valley soil, while incredibly fertile, develops hardpan layers from years of tillage and natural compaction. These impermeable layers prevent water infiltration and root penetration, limiting crop yields. Deep ripping shatters these layers, typically going down 18 to 20 inches or more, using massive shanks with pointed tips that fracture the compacted soil without bringing it to the surface. This is different from plowing, which turns the soil over. Deep ripping leaves the surface relatively undisturbed while breaking up the underground barriers. It's essential work, but it's also some of the most demanding work a tractor can do. The forces involved are immense. The implement behind the Big Bud would have had multiple shanks, each requiring hundreds of horsepower to pull through hardpan at depth. Lesser tractors would bog down, overheat, or simply lack the weight and power to maintain forward progress. The 16V-747 was built specifically for this punishment. Working the Rossi brothers' fields, the Big Bud would pull implements that were impossible for single tractors of any other design. Where other operations might use two large crawlers working in tandem, the Rossi brothers used one Big Bud. The economics were compelling. One operator instead of two, one machine to maintain instead of two, one fuel tank to fill, and continuous work without the coordination challenges of running multiple machines. The tractor worked at speeds approaching 8 miles per hour, depending on soil conditions and implement configuration. At those speeds, pulling an implement wide enough to match the tractor's capabilities, the Big Bud could work well over an acre per minute. Do the math, 60 acres per hour, 500 acres in a solid 8-hour shift, thousands of acres in a week. For 11 years, from 1978 through 1989, the Big Bud 16V-747 worked California cotton country, 11 harvests, 11 planting seasons, countless hours under load, the Detroit diesel running at peak output, the transmission transferring that power to the ground, the massive tires clawing through soil that would stop conventional machines cold. The sun beat down on that white paint. Dust covered every surface. The 8-track player probably worked through hundreds of cartridges as operators spent day after day in that cab, covering ground at rates that seemed impossible. This was the machine's prime, its glory years, when it was doing exactly what it was built to do. But nothing lasts forever, especially in agriculture. By 1989, the Rossi brothers' needs had changed. Perhaps their operations had shifted. Perhaps the economics of deep ripping versus no-till or other soil management strategies had evolved. Perhaps they simply wanted newer technology. Regardless, the Big Bud was sold to Willowbrook Farms of Indialantic, Florida. The machine was about to enter its second act, and it would be heading to the opposite side of the country to face entirely different soil conditions and agricultural challenges. Chapter 5: Florida Years and the Return to Montana. When Willowbrook Farms purchased the Big Bud 16V-747, they acquired a machine with 11 years of hard use, but still plenty of life left in the Detroit diesel and its heavy-duty components. Florida agriculture is different from California cotton farming. The soils are different. The climate is different. The crops are different. But the need for deep tillage remained constant. Willowbrook Farms used the Big Bud primarily for deep ripping their vegetable operations. Florida's sandy soils can still develop compaction layers, particularly in areas with clay subsoil, or where heavy equipment has repeatedly worked the ground. The Big Bud's power and weight were just as valuable in Florida as they had been in California. During this period, Willowbrook Farms made the first significant power upgrade, turning up the fuel delivery on the Detroit diesel and pushing output from the original 760 horsepower to 900. This wasn't a radical modification. The 16V92T had plenty of capacity for increased fuel flow, and the added power made the already impressive machine even more capable. The Florida chapter lasted about 8 years. Though detailed records of its work there are scarce. What we know is that by 1997, the tractor was once again for sale, and this time it would return to its birthplace. Robert and Randy Williams, farmers from Big Sandy, Montana, were operating a large grain operation in Chouteau County, about 60 miles from Havre, where the Big Bud had been built nearly 20 years earlier. When they heard the 16V-747 was available, they jumped at the chance. This machine was legend in Montana farming circles. Bringing it home felt right. The Williams brothers purchased the tractor and immediately set about a comprehensive rebuild during the winter of 1997 to 98. The entire machine was gone through mechanically. The power was increased again to 960 horsepower through additional fuel system tuning. The paint scheme changed from the white and black to all white, with gleaming chrome exhaust stacks. New graphics proclaimed the machine's identity and power. The transformation was stunning. When the Big Bud 16V-747 went back to work in Montana, it faced a different challenge than California cotton or Florida vegetables. This was grain country, wheat, barley, pulse crops, on rolling hills that stretched forever under big sky. The Williams brothers put the machine to work pulling an 80-foot cultivator for seedbed preparation. 80 feet. That's wider than a football field is long. The Big Bud would work this implement at speeds up to 8 miles per hour, covering approximately 1.3 acres per minute. The math is staggering, about 80 acres per hour under good conditions. The tractor finally had work that matched its capabilities. Montana farmers who had heard stories about the Big Bud for years could now see it working in their own territory. It became something of a celebrity, with people driving out of their way to watch it work or catch a glimpse of it being transported between fields. For several years, the 16V 77 was the pride of the Williams brothers operation, a working piece of agricultural history that earned its keep every season. But time brings change. By 2009, several factors converged to force difficult decisions. First, the Williams brothers were transitioning more of their operation to no-till farming practices, reducing the need for intensive tillage. Second, one of the original 8-foot United Tire Company tires suffered damage. With United Tire bankrupt since 2000, replacement tires were impossible to source. The Big Bud had worked on its original rubber for over 30 years, which is extraordinary for any tire, let alone custom units supporting 30-plus tons each. But even the toughest rubber doesn't last forever, and without replacements available, the machine's working days appeared to be over. In July 2009, the Williams brothers made the difficult decision to retire the Big Bud 16V-747 from active farm work. It had served 3 owners over 31 years, working millions of acres in 3 different states. It had never failed, it had never quit. But without tires, it couldn't continue. The machine went into museum display, moving first to the Heartland Acres Agribition Center in Independence, Iowa. In 2014, it was moved to the Heartland Museum in Clarion, Iowa, where a special building called the Big Red Shed was constructed specifically to house it. The Big Bud seemed destined to spend its remaining years as a static display, a monument to an era of agricultural ambition. But the story wasn't quite over. Chapter 6: Resurrection and Return to the Field. For 11 years, the Big Bud 16V-747 sat in museum buildings, polished and perfect, visited by thousands of agricultural enthusiasts who marveled at its size and learned its history. But something was wrong. This machine wasn't built to sit still. It was built to work. The Williams brothers felt it. They still owned the tractor, having loaned it to museums for display, and they still farmed thousands of acres in Montana that could benefit from what the Big Bud could do. The problem remained: tires. Then, in 2020, a solution emerged. Goodyear and their tire manufacturing partner developed the LSW 1400/30 R46, part of their low sidewall tire line designed for high horsepower agricultural equipment. These tires, while not as tall as the original United tires, were close enough in load capacity and diameter to work. The Williams brothers commissioned new rims to accommodate the different tire specifications. In July 2020, the original 8-foot tires that had served since 1978, 42 years of service, were finally replaced. The new tires were slightly under 7 feet tall, making the tractor sit about a foot lower. The rim and tire combination increased the overall width to over 25 feet, but that was a small price to pay for functionality. The modifications also included one final power upgrade. New high-flow fuel injectors pushed the Detroit diesel to its current 1,100 horsepower rating. 1,100 horses. That's supercar power. That's sports car power. That's more horsepower than many modern production tractors, while weighing twice as much and being designed for sustained full-load operation. In September 2020, the Big Bud 16V-747 returned to Montana. It went back to the Williams brothers' farm near Big Sandy, within sight of the High Line where it had been built 43 years earlier, and it went back to work. The implement of choice was an 80-foot Frigstad chisel plow. The Big Bud would pull this across Montana grain fields, working ground at the same impressive rates it had achieved decades earlier. The sound of that 16-cylinder Detroit diesel at full song echoed across the prairie once again. The resurrection drew attention from the agricultural media and farming community. Welker Farms, a popular YouTube channel documenting modern Montana agriculture, covered the return extensively, showing the Big Bud at work and explaining the restoration process. Tens of thousands of viewers watched as the world's largest farm tractor proved it could still compete with modern equipment. The return wasn't just nostalgia or showmanship. The Big Bud genuinely worked, performing tillage operations that would require multiple smaller tractors or numerous passes with conventional equipment. The economics made sense. One operator, one machine, covering massive acreage quickly and efficiently. Modern tractors have better fuel economy, more sophisticated electronics, and improved operator comfort, but none of them can match the sheer intimidation factor and raw capability of the Big Bud 16V-747 pulling an 80-foot implement at 8 miles per hour. There's something primal about watching that much power and weight work the earth. The resurrection also sparked renewed interest in the Big Bud legacy. In 2023, a new Big Bud 700 was built using modern components and an 18-liter engine producing nearly 700 horsepower. The brand was being revived, with the 16V-747 serving as both inspiration and proof of concept. If one custom builder in Montana could create the world's largest farm tractor in the 1970s, why not do it again with modern technology? The 16V-747 continues to work Montana fields today, maintained meticulously by the Williams brothers. It's no longer just a machine, it's a working museum piece, a testament to what American agricultural engineering could accomplish when farmers needed something that didn't exist and were willing to commission it into being. Every time it fires up, every acre it works, every furrow it pulls, the Big Bud proves that some machines transcend their era and become timeless. Chapter 7. The Engineering Philosophy. What makes the Big Bud 16V-747 truly remarkable isn't just its size or power. It's the engineering philosophy that created it and allowed it to work reliably for over 4 decades. This philosophy can be summed up in one sentence: use proven components, overbuild everything, and make maintenance accessible. Consider the engine choice. Northern Manufacturing didn't develop a custom power plant. They sourced a Detroit diesel 16V92T from the mining and industrial equipment world. This engine had years of service history. Parts were available, mechanics knew how to work on it. Using a proven engine eliminated the risk of unknown reliability issues and ensured that when something did eventually need repair or replacement, the parts and knowledge existed. The same philosophy applied to the transmission. The twin-disc unit came from mining equipment. It was designed for loads far exceeding anything agricultural work would impose. The torque converter was sized for shock loads from rock impacts and emergency stops. In farm use, it was essentially indestructible. The Clark axles followed the same pattern. 85,000-pound axles from Michigan wheel loaders were overkill for a farm tractor, but that overkill meant they would never be the weak link in the drivetrain. Overbuild everything, and nothing breaks. This wasn't unique to the 16V-747. All Big Bud tractors followed this design philosophy. It's why hundreds of them worked reliably for decades across North American farms. It's why many are still in operation today, 40 or 50 years after they were built. The flip-top cab design exemplified the maintenance philosophy. By making the entire cab tilt back hydraulically, Northern Manufacturing eliminated the need to work under the tractor or disassemble bodywork to access critical components. The engine and transmission could be serviced from above, standing on the frame, with proper lighting and room to work. This single design feature probably saved thousands of hours of maintenance time over the tractor's working life. The use of standard hydraulic fittings, electrical connections, and fasteners meant repairs could be made with tools any farm would have. There were no proprietary connections requiring special wrenches, no security fasteners preventing farmer repairs. Everything was designed to be maintained in the field, in Montana or California or Florida, without flying in factory technicians. This approach stands in stark contrast to much modern agricultural equipment, where proprietary electronics, software locks, and specialized tools make farmer repairs increasingly difficult or impossible. The Big Bud represented a different era's values. Build machines farmers can fix themselves, and they'll remain loyal customers. The durability speaks for itself. The Big Bud 16V-747 worked commercially for 31 years before being retired due to tire availability, not mechanical failure. Think about that. 31 years of heavy tillage work, often at full load, in diverse conditions, and the machine never suffered a catastrophic failure. The engine never grenaded, the transmission never exploded, the frame never cracked. Yes, components wore and required replacement. Yes, regular maintenance was essential. But the fundamental design was so sound, so thoroughly engineered, that the machine could be rebuilt and upgraded multiple times over its lifespan, each time emerging stronger than before. The power upgrades tell this story perfectly. From 760 horsepower to 900 to 960 to 1100. Each increase was possible because the original design had margin built in. The engine could handle more fuel and boost. The transmission could handle more torque. The axles and drivetrain could transfer more power to the ground. You can't upgrade a machine that's already at its limits. The Big Bud was never at its limits. This engineering philosophy created a machine that could evolve with technology and operator needs while remaining fundamentally the same tractor. The 16-volt 47 working Montana fields in 2020 is recognizably the same machine that worked California cotton in 1978. Different tires, more power, updated paint, but the same bones, the same heart, the same unstoppable character. That's engineering done right. Chapter 8. Legacy and the Modern Context. The Big Bud 16V-747 holds a unique place in agricultural history as the largest farm tractor ever built. By weight, power, and physical dimensions, no production tractor has surpassed it. While today's top-tier machines from John Deere, Case IH, and New Holland offer 600 to 700 horsepower with advanced transmissions, GPS guidance, and fuel efficiency that the Big Bud could never match, none of them carry the same presence. Modern machines are faster, smarter, and more efficient. A Case IH Quad Track or John Deere 9R series can pull the same width implements while weighing less and compacting the soil far less. Their tracked setups, auto steering, and electronic precision offer advantages in nearly every measurable category. But the Big Bud doesn't need numbers to make its point. When you see it in the field, hauling 80 feet of steel at 8 miles per hour, there's something almost unreal about it. The 16-cylinder diesel engine roars, the articulated frame twists, and the tires throw arcs of soil in every direction. It's not just a machine, it's a spectacle. The Big Bud represents a moment in American agriculture when ambition wasn't limited by feasibility. In the late 1970s, a farmer could call up a shop in Montana and ask for something bigger than anything on the market, and the shop would build it. That kind of custom work is nearly extinct. Today's industry is standardized and consolidated. Big now means checking a box on a manufacturer's website, not commissioning a one-off mechanical titan. There's no touchscreen in the cab, no complex software, just gauges, levers, and steel. It burns 3/4 of a gallon of fuel per acre and requires hands-on maintenance. But in its simplicity lies a kind of rugged reliability. A skilled mechanic can keep it running for decades, and that endurance is exactly what makes it timeless. The Big Bud also helped push the industry forward. Its success proved that articulated four-wheel drive tractors could handle extreme workloads, inspiring manufacturers like Steiger, Versatile, and Case IH to build their own heavy-duty models. In that sense, its oversized shadow stretches across nearly every modern four-wheel drive tractor built today, but its legacy goes beyond performance. The resurrection of the 16V-747 by the Williams brothers, bringing it out of museum retirement and back into active service, reflects a growing appreciation for agricultural heritage. Machines once seen as obsolete are now viewed as icons of American engineering. Keeping them alive isn't just about nostalgia, it's about honoring the philosophy that built them. Build it strong, keep it working, and let nothing go to waste. Will anyone ever build a bigger farm tractor? Probably not. The economics don't support it, and modern machines get the job done with less. But the Big Bud didn't earn its place in history just by being the biggest. It earned it by reminding us that sometimes size really does matter, not for efficiency, but for what it represents: ambition, ingenuity, pride, and a time when one machine could still stop you in your tracks. Because the Big Bud 16V-747 isn't just a tractor, it's a symbol And when it moves, the ground remembers. The Big Bud 16V-747 wasn't built to be pretty. It was built to work, to pull implements nothing else could handle, to cover acreage at rates that seemed impossible, to prove that Montana manufacturing and American agricultural ambition could create something the world had never seen. What's the biggest machine you've ever seen work? Drop your stories in the comments. And if you love tales of American agricultural giants, hit subscribe. Because when it comes to farming history, the best stories are the ones that shake the ground.